Hi. So today we're going to design, develop, and deploy a fully functional React game with Firebase backend, all using AI. The game will have a home screen, a play screen, and will also have a leaderboard. So let's get started. All right. So we are going to use the following tools today: ChatGPT for prompt generation, Polymet to design the user interface, and Cursor to write the code. Now, apart from all these AI tools, we will also use Firebase as our database and AWS for hosting. So let's start with ChatGPT. Let's say we want to build this simple math game, but don't have all the details fully fleshed out. Now we can use ChatGPT to provide a rough structure, and ChatGPT will give us a detailed prompt and description for our game. So let's tell it that we want our users to be able to do simple multiplication, addition, and subtraction operations with 3 levels of difficulty. Each question has a 60-second timer. Score is defined by the number of correct answers, and so on. You can add as much detail as you want here. For example, let's add a minus button to allow users to enter negative numbers. Once these details look good, hit the submit button and let ChatGPT do its thing. As you can see, ChatGPT has added a lot of additional details and put a structure around our game concept. It has defined the game objective, the game modes, timer, how the users will input the answers, more details like how the users progress in the game, scores, leaderboards, and even user interface specifications. Minimal and clean layout, I like that. It also defined different design layouts needed for the code, such as the main screen, the gameplay screen, the end screen, and the leaderboard. In the technology section, it has chosen Flutter and Firebase real-time database. Let's change that. Let's change this to front-end as React and back-end as Firestore database. This will regenerate the answer, but only impact the part we ask it to change. Further down, there are more details like the game logic for the front end and Firebase setup for the back end, such as which collection it needs to create. It defines more details such as the front-end code requirements for the React component, back-end details including the Firestore rules as well, UI design and visual styles, etc. As you can see, this is pretty comprehensive based on just a few lines of instructions we provided it. This will become an input for both UX design as well as coding for this game. So now, let's jump into designing the user interface. Let's copy the entire text and jump over to our next tool, Polymet. Polymet is an AI tool that allows you to create UX design by simply providing a prompt. I will create a separate video entirely on using Polymet, as there's a lot more to it than what we are going to use today. So once you are in Polymet, hit the new project button and you get a chat interface to enter a prompt. We will paste the contents we copied from ChatGPT and ask it to build the design for us. Let's hit the submit button. Immediately, Polymet starts working. Usually it takes a while for it to generate the designs, but the wait will be worth it. Alright, we have a simple game design ready by just providing a prompt. Imagine if you are someone who wants to build something quickly and don't have the time to do a detailed UX design upfront. Polymet could be a great way to kickstart your project with minimal efforts. So one good thing about Polymet is that the design it creates are interactive. You can give it a try to play the game. Seems to be working. Oh, there is no way for it to clear the enter text. Now here you can use the edit functionality to edit specific parts of the design. Let's tell it that users should be able to delete the enter text. Then you can run a revision on this design. Again, it takes its time and will create a revised design. You will be able to see different versions of the design on the right side as thumbnails that you can always go back to. Looks like now it has added a clear button. This is cool. Now at the end of the game, it's also showing the leaderboard. That's awesome. Back on the home screen, I don't like this traffic light style buttons. Let's ask it to change it. Let's say these buttons looks like traffic lights. Can you make them a bit more modern in style? Also, let's just give an overall instruction to implement a clean aesthetics. Save and run. Alright, now we got something better than the traffic lights, but the contrast seems pretty off, and the leaderboard button is a problem. We will come back to the leaderboard button later, so let's fix the contrast first. Here there is AI suggestions button. Let's look at what it is. Oh, interestingly, it also suggests that the contrast is not right and it can help us fix it. All right, let's ask it to do that. Nice, I like that. Okay, now let's fix the leaderboard button. The normal state of the leaderboard has white text on a white button. Let's ask it to fix it. Okay. Secondly, I also don't like how the text on the hard category button wraps to the next line. So let's see if it can fix that too. Sorry for being so specific about the design requirements here. Okay, let's run the new revision. Cool. The homepage now looks pretty decent. Not the greatest design in the world, but for a few minutes of prompting, I would say it's done a decent job. The game screen also seems to be working. The leaderboard seems alright as well. One thing I notice while the user is playing level, there is no indication of what difficulty level they are playing. So let's ask Polymet to add that detail. Okay, now in the play screen, we can see the current difficulty level. Cool. Looks like we have a good design that we can now start developing. Let's take a few screenshots to capture the home screen, the gameplay screen, and the game over screen. All right, now let's jump over to Cursor to write the code. Cursor has a free as well as a paid version. If you just want to give it a try, free version allows you 2 weeks of pro features. After that, you can continue using it for free without the pro features. Check out the site to see more details. To begin, let's just download, install, and launch this application. Once you launch Cursor, open the folder where you want to build the application. I've already created an empty math game folder that I want to use. So let's say you're someone who has no idea how to build this React app. You can use Cursor to tell you how to initiate the project. Let's first ask it how we can make a Git repository inside this folder and then initiate a React app inside it. Cursor is going to give you complete instructions on what steps you need to do. Here it's asking us to run a command line prompt and initiate a Git repository. Okay, now I already have this terminal window open. If you don't see this in yours, you can always open it using the terminal menu at the top and clicking new terminal. So let's run git init first. You will see that in the root folder, it has added .git folder. Now let's run the command to create the React app. As it starts creating the app, files and folders will start popping up in the root folder. I will bring up the Finder window just so that you can see how the folders are getting added. But since we have cursor already open, you can also see it in the left menu here. If you notice a bunch of dependency errors, don't worry about them right now. Now let's push the repository to GitHub. Now I'm going to use GitHub Desktop, but you can see that cursor has also given us instructions on how to do that using the command line. We will click the Add Repository button. You will see all your files listed here because we have not pushed anything yet. So let's call this initial commit. Description is optional, but feel free to add whatever you like. Press commit to main. Give the repository a name and a description, and hit push repository. Your repository is now on GitHub. Okay, now let's create the main web app. We will tell cursor to create the app based on the description we used to create the design. So let's go over again to ChatGPT once again and copy the game details. Paste it in the cursor window, and we're going to add a few additional details here. Let's tell it that we will provide the design mocks. We are going to be attaching a mock-up of the home screen, and as we go along, we will provide it more designs. We're also doing this because I have not been able to add multiple images with a prompt, so it only accepts one image at a time. So let's start with the home screen first. Everything looks great. Now let's run this. Now this is where the magic begins. As you can see, cursor has started writing the code for us. It also provides a file structure at the top describing how the folders and files need to be organized. As you can see here, it's writing code for multiple files to build the game. We will let it do its job. At the bottom, it provides a list of tasks it has completed and now what it can help next. Now before proceeding, let's save all the files. The file names with the white dots are the unsaved files. By clicking the Accept File button, we save the file and the code that cursor has created for us. Let's save all these files and close them. You can confirm that the file structure it proposed and how the files were saved are accurate. So go over the files one by one to make sure that they are there. Some files might still be missing as cursor has not yet finished all the code. So let's see what's still missing. As it says here, it can now help us with the following tasks. So let's ask it to continue by adding the game logic and also write the code for the remaining screens. Now this time is adding more files and folders to the code. Once again, it's giving us an overview of where it's going to put these files. You can again click Accept All to save all the files. Save and close the files. As a next step, it's suggesting to build the leaderboard and integrate backend. But I want to see how's the app coming along so far. So let's tell it that we want to test the app and see how it's looking before we add the database functionality. So let's follow the instructions to running the app. First, it's asking us to install React Router DOM. Then we run npm start to run the app. This will start the app and automatically launch the browser. Now we get our first error. Assuming you have no idea what this error means, what do we do next? So let's just copy paste the error cursor and ask it to solve it for us. As you can see, cursor is suggesting two solutions. For now, let's just go with the first one of installing the Web Vitals. Since our app is running, let's stop the app first by pressing Ctrl+C, copy the code, run it in the terminal. Now let's try the app again and see if the error is gone. Okay, so the error is gone, but we still don't see our app. What's going on? Let's ask cursor. It's now adding another app.jsx file, while I can see that there is an app.js file that already exists. Sometimes cursor does things that you may want to double check. In this case, I'm going to ask, why do we have an app.js as well as an app.jsx file? Now cursor is now suggesting we delete app.js and retain app.jsx files. So let's just delete the JS file. Since our app is already running, you can see it has already rebuilt itself. Now if you go to the browser, now we see a new set of errors. So let's repeat this process. We'll ask cursor to fix these. Copy the error, paste it in the chat window. This time it identified that some components are missing and it's going to add the new files for those components. Once again, accept these new additions, save and close the files. Awesome. Now we can see that the app is running and the home screen is up. This is cool. We just built this without writing a single line of code technically. Let's check if it's working correctly. When I click Start Game, it takes me to the play screen, but no, this is not looking good. Maybe because we have not yet told cursor how our play screen looks like. So it has designed its own version. The minus button is missing, the timer is in the wrong place, the width of the layout is wrong. So let's ask cursor to fix these issues. First, let's ask it to center the layout and reduce the play screen width. Second, we'll ask it to add the minus button. And lastly, the slider specifications. We'll also tell it to use the attached play screen design as a reference. Okay, now let's see what it does. Adding the timer, updating the keypad code, and updating game screen. Okay, let's save all the new code and review the app again. The layout looks much better now. The game logic does not seem to be working, so something's changed. It was working earlier. Okay, before fixing that, let's compare the design to our mocks. As you can see, cursor did a great job here. In fact, it made some additional enhancements to the design, which is making it look even better than our own mocks. But the countdown timer is not placed correctly. Now let's fix the issues. First, we'll specify the need to fix the timer icon and position. Secondly, we'll ask it to make the game logic work. Now accept the changes and save all the files and see how it works. The game logic seems to be working. I also like how it's added a slight nudging animation when user enters the wrong answer. We should note that we did not specify that animation, so that's a pleasant surprise. Rest everything seems to be working great. Now comparing it to our design, you can see that the score is not formatted correctly. So let's fix that. We'll ask it to make the score text bold and white color with slightly bigger font size as seen in our mock designs. While we are at this, let's also provide it with the game over screen and ask it to update that as well. Let's save the changes and run the code. Looks like it did not update the score text formatting. Let's see if it made the game over screen better. Let's bring up the mock again. And this is looking great. It has very closely matched the design. Looks like it also improved the contrast a little bit, which is great. Again, we are not focusing too much on the design right now. I mean, as a designer, I know there is tremendous scope of improvement here, but the purpose of the video is to demonstrate the workflow and not perfect the design. Now let's fix the score formatting and see how it looks. We'll save the changes and check the UI. All right, the score text is formatted correctly now. Now let's try the other difficulty modes. We selected hard, and the questions are hard, but at the top, the level indicator still shows easy. Let's tell cursor that we need to fix this. We'll save the changes and check the UI once again. All right, the level indicators are working correctly now. Now that the game is working, let's implement the leaderboard and the database functionality. We'll ask cursor to set up Firestore database and the leaderboard screens. For the leaderboard, we would like it to create a leaderboard for each level, and the current score of the user should also be displayed on the top. Cursor is now asking us to install Firebase module. Let's stop the application and enter the command in terminal. Now it has also created the firebase.js file for the configuration and added a few other files. Let's add all of these, accept these changes, and save them. Now, before we can test this, we will need to set up the database. So let's jump over to the Firebase, our next tool. I have already created a project here, so we'll jump straight into it. Add a Firebase database to your project. As you can see, it's blank right now. In the project overview page, you should also add a web app. I've already done so. Once you've added the app and go to the project setting, you will find the Firebase config details here. We'll take each of these values and copy them over to our firebase.js file. Copy and paste all these values one by one. We've completed the basic setup. Now we need to add the rules. Again, assuming you have no idea how to write these Firebase rules, we'll ask Cursor to do it for us. Okay, Cursor is now giving us the Firebase rules. Along with the rules, it has also described what the rules are and how to deploy these rules in Firebase. So let's copy these rules and jump over to Firebase. Go to the Rules tab and paste them here. And publish. Now Firebase is throwing an error. So we'll go back to Cursor and share the error. Now let's copy the new rules and override them. Okay, looks like the rules published successfully. Now let's start our app. Now when the game ends, we are seeing a new error. We'll copy this error once again and ask Cursor to look into it. Seems like Cursor identified a need for some changes to the game component. So let's accept these changes, save these changes, and run the game again. Perfect. We are now getting our game over screen, but the scores are not showing up. Now this can also be because Firebase needs to create indexes. So let's right click and inspect. Go to the console tab. And as you can see at the very bottom, it's showing Firebase index error. Now one good thing about this error is that it also gives a direct link to add the index. So we'll click the link. Now click the save button and the index will start building. It will take a while for the indexes to build, so wait until it's finished. Okay, now it's finished indexing. Let's go back to the app. Now clicking the leaderboard is still not showing the leaderboard. So let's build that. Once again, save the changes and run the app. Also, looks like the leaderboard is empty since we have not yet implemented the functionality to ask users to enter the game username. Let's ask Cursor to add that feature. Now when we start the game, it's asking us to enter a username. Let's see what happens when the game ends. Okay, looks like there is something wrong. Let's inspect once again. There's an error. We'll copy this error, go back to Cursor, and ask it to fix it. So it's making some suggestions. Let's accept the revised code and let's play the game once again. Okay, everything seems to be working now. We have the current game over screen. We have the current game score, the user's best score for the level, and we also have the leaderboard for the level. Overall, the game looks pretty good now. So let's try and deploy it on the web so that everybody else on the internet can see it. For this, we are going to jump over to AWS and we're going to use Amplify to deploy our app. Once inside Amplify, click the Deploy an App button. This will ask you to choose your code source. And since our game is on GitHub, we will choose GitHub. Press Next. Choose the math game repo we created. Next, click Install and Authorize. Now in Amplify, select the repository from the drop-down, then select the branch. We only have the main branch to select, and press Next. Leave everything as default and click Next. In the last step, click Save and Deploy. This will now start the deployment process. It will take a while, so wait until it finishes deploying. Okay, once deployed, you should now be able to access the URL it generated and share it with everyone. Your application is now live. Feel free to test it thoroughly before sharing. As the next step, you can use Route 53 to configure a custom URL so that your URL is easy to remember for your users. If you like this video and would like to see more such content, please like, subscribe, and comment what you would like to see next. Thanks for watching.